office was already humming when Marcy walked in, but something felt off. Too many eyes darted away from hers, too many lips pressed together like they were clenching secrets behind caffeine breath. Then came the ping, urgent, all hands reorg. 9:00 a.m. Mandatory. Subject line screamed corporate apocalypse. She barely had time to pour her bitter-ass breakroom coffee before the stampede started. Devs, designers, product managers clogging the hall like cattle sniffing the slaughterhouse. The new VP of product, Ellie Sutterfield, formerly of Bold Tech, currently of Too Much Cologne, had arrived 2 weeks earlier and already left a trail of chaos like a drunk bull in a server room. His mantra, innovation through velocity. His wardrobe, tight blue suits and loafers no engineer had ever trusted. His vibe, TED talk meets frat house. RC walked into the glass conference room last, intentionally. She liked seeing who didn't look her in the eye when things went sideways. The projector glowed against a boardroom whiteboard with a title that made her guts curdle: Operational Efficiency and Strategic Streamlining. Sutterfield stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up, Rolex winking under the fluorescent lights like it was mocking everyone in the room. "Thanks for coming on such short notice," he said, all toothy charisma. "Today's about evolution, speed, cutting the fat, and I'll be blunt, quality assurance as it stands is non-essential overhead." Marcy blinked. The room went still. You could hear the AC wheeze. "I mean, we're deploying AI testing, automation tools. We don't need a whole department nitpicking over edge cases when we're sprinting toward greatness." He gestured at her directly. "No offense, Marcy, but your process slows us down. We've got bug reports about bugs no one's ever even seen." "That's not a red flag, it's paralysis." Some chuckled. Cowards, middle managers eager to please. She recognized the sound, bootlicking in stereo. Marcy didn't flinch. Her throat tightened, but her hands were steady. "So we're all let go?" Sutterfield grinned. "It's not personal, it's product velocity. 8 people, gone, just like that, before lunch." Marcy nodded once, picked up her laptop, walked back to her desk through a gauntlet of rubberneckers pretending to type. The hallway lights felt harsher, buzzing like angry bees. Her inbox was already filling with auto-generated HR emails, separation paperwork, NDA reminders, exit instructions, corporate breakups, wrapped in boilerplate. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. That came later. She opened a secure shell terminal, tapped in her access keys. In less than 7 minutes, she encrypted her bug database. 3 years of meticulously logged test cases, performance edge conditions, sync errors, and payment anomalies. Then she zipped it, salted it with a dummy payload, and emailed it to her personal Proton Mail account labeled Yoga Retreat 2024. Just in case. Next, she found the anonymized logs from the most recent staging builds. One bug in particular glared at her from the logs like a cockroach under bathroom light. The payment gateway sync error. Known issue. Flagged 3 times. Still unpatched. Still sitting there waiting to detonate. Sutterfield had once sent a Slack message laughing about it. "Who cares if it syncs late? The customer doesn't see that." Emoji, sunglasses face. Response from a product manager. "Haha, so true." Her reply had been buried, polite, documented, ignored. She stared at her screen. That bug wasn't just a loose thread. It was a landmine. It didn't cause problems under ideal conditions, but if 3 variables aligned, corrupted transactions, duplicate charges, bricked client accounts. She'd seen it happen once in a beta test in Brazil. Took 6 days to clean up, but it never made it into the official launch notes because it hadn't shipped. Yet, now, it would. Marcy zipped up her personal belongings. Ceramic mug from a defunct testing conference. A tiny potted cactus named Regression. A USB drive shaped like a flamingo. She stood, looked around the silent QA bay, once a noisy, caffeine-fueled command center. Now, a ghost town with ergonomic chairs. As she walked past Sutterfield's glass-walled office, he didn't even glance up. Too busy on a call, probably bragging to a VC buddy about how he decapitated a whole department before brunch. He stepped into the elevator alone, exhaling as the doors closed. Let him have his velocity. She had documentation. She had patience. She had receipts, and she knew exactly what came next. The same floor that had been funereal during the layoffs was now dripping in confetti and forced optimism. Someone had wheeled in a Costco table with fruit skewers, and those sad triangle sandwiches that always taste like betrayal. Champagne bottles popped with the desperation of a team trying to believe the cult leader at the front of the room hadn't just burned the temple down with everyone locked inside. The commander, no one called him Ilya anymore, just the commander, half as a joke, half because he insisted, stood under a cheap-launched DAY banner like a sweaty game show host who just survived his first scandal. Cough-free and proud, he bellowed, holding up a champagne flute like he'd personally split the Red Sea using a Sprint retrospective. Everyone clapped on instinct, like their paychecks depended on it, which, to be fair, they kinda did. Marcy wasn't there, obviously. She was sitting in her tiny kitchen back home, eating lukewarm pad thai and watching the farce unfold through her screen. LinkedIn was a minefield of self-congratulatory posts from people who'd survive a meteor strike as long as they reposted the company's mission statement fast enough. One post, from the commander himself, had a selfie of him and the engineering team holding up a whiteboard that read, "Shipped without a net rocket sparkles, #no-ca #bold moves #innovation nation." She almost choked on a noodle. Her phone buzzed. Old coworker sent a screenshot, the product marketing email blast. "After months of streamlining, we've eliminated bottlenecks and bureaucracy. Our new release process empowers engineers to own quality, while AI ensures reliability. Bold font, big promises, zero understanding of how bugs behave in the wild." Marcy put the phone down, opened her laptop. The launch build was now live on the App Store. Didn't need admin access to see the early telemetry trickling in through third-party tools. She'd installed a few data scrapers back when she still cared about monitoring real-world performance. Just the basics: API lag, transaction failure rates, front-end load discrepancies. Nothing shady, nothing anyone had noticed because no one else looked. Within 30 minutes of launch, a low hum appeared in the back-end logs, a quiet rise in transaction sync errors. Not huge, rising, like a heartbeat going from resting to agitated. She clicked deeper. Region, Northeast. Platform, Android 13+. Payment gateway, Stripe, trigger, purchase attempt while account settings were still syncing from a cached token. Result, double charge, phantom receipt, no successful order confirmation. Exactly what she'd warned about. The logs didn't scream, they whispered. The kind of whisper that crawled behind your ear and settled there like mold. Would take another few hours before customers even noticed. Another 6 before support realized something systemic was happening. Maybe a full day before leadership admitted they didn't know what was going on. But she saw it now. She opened the Slack archive she'd saved, searched the thread. There it was, plain as day, Marcy. This bug causes token mismatch during payment sync. Possible financial duplication risk. Commander, we're not building Fort Knox here, Marcy. Users don't care if the receipt's off by 5 seconds. Product manager. Elmao face with tears of joy. She's wild for this that Elmao would age like mayonnaise in the sun. She scrolled down LinkedIn again. Another post. One of the engineers flashing a peace sign with the caption, "Never thought I'd see the day. No CA, no blockers. Just build and ship. #Dream Team." Another one bragged about pushing a hotfix without approval, celebrating it as a new era of trust. RC reached for her tea, cold now, and sipped anyway. Let them preen. Let them throw their party with lukewarm champagne and cardboard canapes. She'd already seen the movie. She knew how it ended. A second window blinked open, App Store reviews, just a few early ones. Why did I get charged twice? My account is locked after update. This app bricked my phone. She leaned back, let the bitterness roll down like smoke. The sync bug wasn't theoretical anymore. It was real, and it was alive. And the real fireworks hadn't even started yet. By 7:12 a.m., the flood had begun. Marcy's phone buzzed with a half-dozen notifications the second she turned it off airplane mode. 2 emails from customer accounts she used for shadow testing, 3 push alerts from the App Store review tracker, and a text from James, her former QA teammate and unofficial work little brother. "Did you see this?" She didn't respond right away. Instead, she padded barefoot to the kitchen, made herself a mug of black coffee thick enough to stun a raccoon, and opened her laptop. The dashboard took a moment to load. Then it hit. Error rates spiking in regions that had slept through the midnight deployment. Pacific time zones lighting up red. Logged-in sessions dropping off a cliff. 12,000 plus transaction errors since 4 a.m. at a company that normally averaged a couple hundred a day. Wasn't just the volume. It was where the errors were clustering. Marcy clicked into the logs. Purchase sync failure 04x0931. Purchase sync failure 04x0931. Purchase sync failure 04x0931. Hundreds of them. Identical timestamp collisions. The exact edge case she documented, modeled, escalated. And watched the commander dismiss with a shrug and a nobody cares about receipts, Marcy. Well, apparently they did, because those receipts, they were charging people twice, sometimes 3 times if they retried. No confirmation screens, no refunds, just ghost charges and account locks, and the system throwing up all over itself trying to reconcile the mess. Her phone buzzed again. James, their chatbots broke. Like full-on blank screens. Users are screenshotting the error pages and posting them on Reddit. She clicked open the Reddit thread. Sure enough, anyone else get double charged after this update? I got logged out and can't get back in. Says my account doesn't exist. Support bot just crashed on me, lol, what a joke. My history is gone, all my purchases wiped. The comments were stacking by the minute. Memes started circulating. One had a picture of the commander in his signature blue suit, photoshopped next to a dumpster fire with the caption, "Innovation means never saying you're sorry." She sipped her coffee. Deadpan? The App Store ratings were tanking faster than a penny stock caught in an SEC investigation. From 4.8 to 3.1 in 5 hours. She refreshed. 2.9. She flipped open a browser tab to the company's official Twitter account. It was pure carnage. At Archer Hunter, I got charged $59.99 3 times, and your support form is a 404. This is robbery. Fix it now. Digitally furious. You fired QA and this is what we get. My account is bricked. Hope your CEO likes subpoenas. At Apocalypse Now, bold move removing testers. Bolder move ignoring your entire user base when they get screwed. The company hadn't tweeted in 14 hours. She opened LinkedIn again because she was petty like that and scrolled down to the commander's smug launch post. The comment section had gone feral. QA-free and proud. Now had QA-free and fraud. Proud of tanking the whole system. Hope your investors like charts with arrows going down. Another text came in. James again, support teams on an all-hands call. People are crying. They made the interns answer phones. They're blaming engineers now. Said the code should have self-tested. Marcy just shook her head. She knew the engineers. Talented, overworked, stuck in a system that treated QA like speed bumps instead of seatbelts. Raised concerns. But the commander was allergic to friction. Even when that friction was the only thing stopping a head-on collision. She refreshed the review page again. 2.4 stars, still dropping. And then she saw the notification that changed the rhythm of her pulse. Unusual transaction rollback behavior detected. Stripe rate limit warning triggered. Stripe was flagging their gateway. Marcy's lips parted slightly. That wasn't just bad. That was catastrophic. Stripe cut them off temporarily. They couldn't process payments at all. They'd lose tens of thousands every hour. Refunds would bottleneck. Customer service would drown. She opened her Notes app, created a new entry titled Postmortem Predicted Timeline. She listed the major bug, the symptoms, the ignored warnings, the expected escalation steps. It was a forensic autopsy of a still-breathing disaster. The next step, internal panic. And that's when the real game would begin. The panic wasn't loud at first. It came in glitches. Slack threads slowing down. Calendar invites popping up with no titles. People yanked out of normal stand-ups and shoved into last-minute priority syncs with titles like post-launch stabilization, internal eyes only. The digital veneer of control was peeling, and underneath it was nothing but sweat and whiteboards that looked like ransom notes. Inside HQ, Commander was already working overtime at what he did best. Dodging responsibility like it was a dodgeball tournament, and someone just turned on the flamethrowers. We shipped what engineering gave us. He snapped at the engineering director, pacing the war room in his still-ironed blue suit. If they can't handle live environments, that's not a product problem. A product manager tried to interject, voice cracking. But we flagged the sync issue in that June build, remember. QA had that hole. The commander waved a hand like he was swatting a fly. Don't start blaming ghosts. QA's not even here anymore. He turned on customer support next. How did no one catch the pattern in these tickets before it hit Twitter? Where the hell were your escalation protocols? Sir, we escalated to product. Twice, said a support lead, trembling. We were told not to create noise before the investor call. Silence. The commander's nostrils flared. Eagle, can we get an official response draft? Something about a temporary sync hiccup due to unprecedented demand. Legal looked like they wanted to crawl out of their own suits. We can't lie. Stripe flagged them. It's documented. He threw a marker at the whiteboard so hard the cap popped off and bounced under the desk. Then make it sound less like a crime. That's when it happened. A junior developer, nobody particularly high up, just some poor bastard named Ryan with dark circles under his eyes and an undercooked LinkedIn profile, accidentally dropped a bomb in the hash release hotfix channel. Marcy flagged this bug in May. 3 times. I found the threads. No emoji, no punctuation, just raw evidence. And just like that, the room cracked. Half the people froze. The other half suddenly remembered they had calendar conflicts. The engineering director went pale, muttered something about checking logs, and left the call. A product manager minimized the Zoom window, probably to message someone legal adjacent. No one responded, not even the commander. Marcy, meanwhile, was at her desk at home, feeding her cat and watching the back-end crash telemetry rise like sea levels. Then came the LinkedIn notification. Hi Marcy, I'm the executive assistant to William S., board chair. He asked me to reach out. Can we talk? Privately, she stared at the message. Didn't smile, didn't type anything back yet, just reread it twice. Because here's the thing about board assistants, they don't cold message ex-employees unless something's burning. And when they do, they've already had a meeting about it. Marcy reached for her mug, then paused. She closed her eyes for a second and felt it. That low, coiled hum in the gut, not fear, not hope. Power. Just a flicker of it. After 3 years of being dismissed as overcautious, it glowed like an ember in a long-dead fire pit. She clicked the message open. Replied, I'm available for a short call this afternoon. Off record. No commitments, no smiley, no pleasantries. Let them sweat. Because if the board was finally listening, then maybe they were ready to hear everything. The call came at 9:46 p.m., just as Marcy was closing her laptop for the night. Her apartment lights were low, casting soft shadows across the sticky notes littering her wall like a conspiracy board without the yarn. Outside, the sirens moaned low and steady city ambience at its most honest. Her cat, sprawled across the floor like a corpse, perked its ears at the buzz. Caller ID, unknown, but she recognized the area code. She let it ring twice before answering. Marcy. A breath, then a voice she hadn't heard since the layoffs. Hey, it's Darren, her old team lead, one who'd fought for her when Sutterfield started swinging his axe, only to end up reassigned to the compliance pit, where QA went to rot quietly. Last she heard, he was managing automated legal logs for GDPR filters, a glorified janitor for corporate data trash. I wouldn't be calling unless, he started. You're calling because everything's on fire, she said flatly. And the extinguisher they threw out with the rest of QA won't answer their texts. Chuckled, it wasn't a happy sound. More like a man laughing at the sound of his own funeral playlist. They want you back, he said, unofficially, of course. Just to consult, they said. Short-term engagement, you'd be remote, high clearance. Name your rate. Marcy leaned back in her chair, watching the orange glow of the skyline flicker like the servers must have been doing over at HQ. You know what's funny, Darren? She said. 2 weeks ago, I was non-essential overhead. Today, I'm a messiah with a Git repo. Silence. Then he sighed. Mars, I think they finally get it. The board's livid. They don't trust Ali anymore. Legal's panicking. Finance is whispering about breach of contract refunds. They know you warned them, and they really don't want it getting out. Too late, she said. It is out. Users are organizing chargeback campaigns on Discord. And one of your product interns posted a crash log on TikTok like it was a thirst trap. Winced audibly. They still want to talk, he said. Blank check pretty much. Just don't shut the door yet. Marcy stood up, wandered to her window. A bus rolled by empty. She could almost see the reflection of herself in the glass, calm, composed, unbothered. But underneath, that ember from before was glowing hotter. I appreciate you reaching out, Darren, she said. Truly, but I'm not available. Silence again. You're consulting, he said. She didn't confirm. Need to? But she added slowly, they reached out after the layoffs. Quietly. Been feeding them frameworks for a real QA pipeline. One that doesn't break under pressure. One that doesn't ignore sync bugs because some dipshit thinks emojis count as leadership. You're talking about Nexora, aren't you? He asked. Still, she didn't answer. I've seen their roadmap, he muttered. You've been ghost building a competitor, not ghost building. Just whispering in the right ears. More silence. Finally, Darren said it, the thing no one else had been willing to admit. You're the leverage now. Marcy smiled, faint and sharp. Took him long enough to realize. He exhaled like someone dropping a weight they'd carried too long. If you ever decide to swing back by, just give me a heads up, so I can get the hell out of the blast radius. I won't need to come back, she said, already walking back toward her desk. I'll just watch the tide pull them under. And with that, she hung up. The phone buzzed again 5 seconds later, an email from the same executive assistant. The board chair is requesting a brief, confidential conversation tomorrow. His calendar is open between 10 and 2. Marcy didn't respond right away. She opened her files, pulled up the original bug report flagged high-risk payment sync error recurring pattern. Date stamped, annotated, disregarded. She exported it into a PDF, named the file. Sutterfield ignored PDF, then uploaded it to a private drive. She wasn't just the leverage anymore. She was the insurance policy they wished they'd kept. The message came through Signal, not Slack, not email, not some HR-managed Zoom invite with a cheery subject line like catching up. It was a single line of text, unsigned but unmistakably deliberate. Miss Hartley, I'd like to speak about the matter of June 14th. Privately. Attached was a VCF file, James Laughlin, internal audit, senior partner, company badge number, a direct phone number that didn't match any known exchange in the company directory. Marcy recognized the play. This wasn't outreach. This was reconnaissance, she called. He answered on the second ring. No small talk, no fake warmth. I'm conducting a board-directed audit of the launch, he said, his voice all gravel and dry protocol. Been authorized to review internal communications, QA logs, and incident documentation relating to payment synchronization across all environments. Your name has appeared with consistency. Marcy said nothing. Let the silence stretch. We've recovered some Slack threads, he continued. However, many were archived and purged under Commander Sutterfield's channel consolidation protocol. We believe you retained personal documentation. Is that correct? I retained nothing proprietary, she said evenly. But I did preserve my own work. Bug reports, time-stamped assessments, annotated logs, all anonymized. Would you be willing to share a redacted version? She took a breath, then opened her archive folder. Her hands didn't shake as she sorted the files, not anymore. I'll send a version within the hour, she said. You'll want to pay attention to May 3rd, May 21st, and June 14th. Why those dates? Because that's when I flagged the sync failure. All 3 times. Laughlin was quiet then, and Sutterfield's response? She smiled, slow and flat. You'll see. She ended the call, composed the packet. First page, her report summary, sanitized of any internal product names but fully detailed on replication steps. Second page, a scrubbed log sample showing the exact fail condition. Third page, a sequence of Slack screenshots, her messages calmly explaining the bug, laying out potential risk scenarios, customer-facing consequences, payment provider exposure. And then him. Sutterfield responding to the first flag with, wow, this again? Face with tears of joy responding to the second with, still no real users seeing it equals not real. Move on. And finally, after her third report, when she tagged 2 team leads and asked for escalation. Marcy, if we wanted paranoia, we'd hire a tinfoil hat. Not building nuclear reactors. It's an app. Lighten up. Smiling face with sunglasses, she exported the file as a PDF. No dramatic file name this time. Just SyncBug findings redacted PDF. She attached it to a secure email. Sent it, then she waited. It took 37 minutes. Her phone rang. Same number. Laughlin again. I've reviewed your report. And you're aware the board has final hiring authority over executive positions? I assumed. Also aware that deliberate suppression of quality control findings in a revenue handling product may constitute material negligence. Yes. Laughlin's voice dropped an octave, like a sermon starting mid-funeral. We don't want you back, Miss Hartley. We want your cooperation, your official account. As an external expert, recorded, reviewed, admissible if necessary, so there it was. They weren't just pulling her into the room. They were building the gallows, asking her to hand them the rope. Marcy didn't blink. I'll cooperate, she said, under 2 conditions. Go on. 1, I remain an independent consultant. No rehiring. No org chart politics. I report to the board and the board alone. Accepted. 2, I want full access to all Slack archives predating the June launch. Internal and cross-functional. I want to see what else he buried. Laughlin didn't answer immediately. Then, you'll have it by morning. She hung up, closed her laptop, and stared at the blank wall across from her desk. They were unraveling him now, thread by thread, and she was the one holding the needle. It broke at 6:42 a.m. Eastern. No warning, no teaser tweet. Just a sudden article from TechDrip, a no-frills blogger site run by a guy named Benji who dressed like he coded in an abandoned hot topic. but who had a terrifying gift for catching blood in the water before it dried. Headline: Screenshots reveal execs mocked QA while ignoring critical payment bug. Days before catastrophic app failure, Marcy saw the link before her coffee even finished brewing. James texted it to her. No preamble, just the link and a single word, boom. She clicked it, and there it was. 3 Slack screenshots, blurred only enough to preserve plausible deniability, names fuzzed, avatars cropped, but the tone unmistakable. QA flagged another ghost bug. A team could find a fart in a hurricane. I swear they get off on delays. Next, they'll say oxygen causes sync issues lol. Tell Marcy to go write sci-fi novels if she wants to imagine disaster scenarios. Then a 4th image. Less funny. Date stamped June 14th, 7:38 p.m. A line from someone marked simply as lead QA. This sync bug could corrupt user data. We must delay until we can replicate it under load. Response from someone labeled exec P. Delay equals weakness. Ship it and pray. The screenshots were authentic. She knew because they were hers, not her files, but her words, her timeline, her warnings. Someone had leaked them, but it wasn't her. That was the best part. She'd kept everything sealed. Lachlan had her files. The board had her testimony. She hadn't sent a single byte outside official review, which meant someone else inside the company had finally cracked under the guilt, or fear, or both. She sat back in her chair, sipping her now lukewarm coffee as the internet went feral. Twitter, X, whatever, blew up like a Vegas transformer during a heat wave. At Digital Gravedigger, so they mocked QA while launching a payment app that bricked phones. Brave and dumb. At Sequitchdog, this is textbook negligence. These screenshots will be in court filings within weeks. Layoff survivor. Remember when QA was non-essential? Now they're the only people with receipts. No pun intended. And then came the hashtags. #QOAS, right, #Sutterfield sync scandal, #ship it, and pray by 8:05 a.m. The commander was trending nationally for the wrong reasons. Someone even posted a screen grab of his smug, LinkedIn launch, post with a red arrow pointing at his QA-free and proud quote. Next to the App Store's current rating, 1.8 stars. One user commented, "You really popped champagne while the ship was sinking, huh?" But it wasn't just the social backlash. By market open, the company's stock slid 11%. By 10 o'clock a.m., it had dipped nearly 18%. Analysts were issuing panic blurbs about potential breach of payment integrity, major leadership failure, and possible regulatory entanglements. Sutterfield's name appeared in 3 major tech headlines and 1 business podcast intro, and always in the same breath as gross mismanagement. Back at HQ, fire alarms weren't ringing, but they may as well have been. Marcy got the update via Lachlan's assistant. Another signal message, brief and unmistakable. Emergency board meeting. Closed door. 3 p.m. Translation: gloves were coming off. She sat in silence, watching the chatter spiral into a digital firestorm. One point, she almost replied to a tweet misattributing the leak to her, but stopped. Let them speculate. She had nothing to prove. Her hands were clean. Her warnings had been ignored. Her reports timestamped and archived. And now the world was catching up to what she already knew. You can mock the safety net all you want, right up until you hit the ground. And Sutterfield, he was still falling. The conference room on the 28th floor hadn't changed. Same museum-piece mahogany table, same overpriced ergonomic chairs that looked like they were designed for octopus posture. But the energy? Different. Not corporate, judicial. Like a tribunal was about to commence, and no one was quite sure if they were the defendant or just next in line. Marcy stepped through the frosted glass door precisely at 2:59 p.m. Not early. Not late. Dressed in a charcoal blazer, dark jeans, and 0 apologies. He didn't bring a laptop. Just a thick manila folder and the kind of silence that makes confident men check their zipper without moving. The room turned as one. 8 board members, some with legal pads, others with tablets. Lachlan stood near the far wall like a phantom in a charcoal suit. At the far end of the table sat Elise Sutterfield, blue suit wrinkled, tie askew, face pinched with the smile of a man trying to stay relevant in a room that had already moved on. Did a double take when he saw her. "Marcy?" he croaked, already on the back foot. She nodded once. Not to him, to the room. "I've been retained as an external consultant to advise on the root cause analysis for the June 15th release failure," she said, cool and clinical. "I understand we're reviewing the risk chain today." The board chair, an old finance hawk named Hallstrom, motioned to the empty seat beside him. "Miss Hartley, thank you for joining us." Please, proceed. She walked calmly to the chair, opened her folder, and slid a stack of papers onto the center of the table like a blackjack dealer with the winning hand. The following is a packet summarizing 3 formal bug escalation reports filed between May and June, she said. Each contains replication data, impact assessments, and annotated logs detailing the payment sync failure pattern. She paused, letting the tension soak into the fabric of the room. Following each report is a Slack thread in which these findings were dismissed, downplayed, or outright mocked by executive leadership. Hallstrom leaned forward, adjusting his bifocals. Can you clarify who specifically dismissed the warnings? She flipped the top page. Timestamps, direct quotes. Slack handles, all here. For example, June 14th thread. My formal note flagged the sync error's escalation risk. Commander Sutterfield, excuse me, Mr. Sutterfield, responded, and I quote, "We're not building nuclear reactors. It's an app. Lighten up." Smiling face with sunglasses, the emoji was printed, bolded like a scar. The boardroom went still. No coughing, no paper rustling, just the soft electric hum of power shifting from one end of the table to the other. Sutterfield adjusted his seat, throat twitching like he'd swallowed a fly. Let's not cherry-pick, Marcy. These were informal channels, banter. We had layers of review. Lachlan cut in. Those layers were dismantled under your reorg directive. I was streamlining. Industry trend, you replaced regression testing with a Jira plugin that never ran once in staging. Hallstrom raised a hand. We're not here for improvisational damage control, Mr. Sutterfield. He turned back to Marcy. Miss Hartley, were your reports acknowledged at the time? Yes. Reacted to, dismissed, laughed off. I documented every response. All of it is in the packet. Sutterfield's mouth opened, then closed. A slow sweat had begun to bead near his hairline. His usual self-assured posture, chin up, chest out, was curling inward now. The board wasn't looking at him. They were reading her notes. They were listening to her. And they weren't blinking. I'd also like to include this, Marcy added, pulling out one final sheet. It was a printout of the support log spike, 24 hours post-launch. Superimposed against her original risk forecast, complete with the same colored graph curve. It matched perfectly. This is the exact trajectory I predicted in my final report, she said. The sync bug was not theoretical. It was replicable. It was real, and it was preventable. She placed the page gently in the center of the table like a judge laying down a verdict. Silence again. Then Hallstrom, low and slow, you were right. No one needed to say it, but it was there in the air. Marcy wasn't just back. He was leading the inquest. And the man who once called her paranoia a liability was now sinking into his chair like a child waiting for detention to end. She didn't look at Sutterfield again. She didn't need to, because the next slide she had prepared was the one that would bury him. Sutterfield tried to talk his way out with the same swagger that had carried him through layoffs, investor calls, and every TEDx stage west of the Mississippi. Now it landed with all the grace of a wet sponge hitting marble. If I may, this wasn't a single point of failure, he stammered. The sync behavior was a known complexity, yes, but junior engineers were tasked with final validation. There was confusion about ownership post-reorg, our processes were evolving, and the signal got diluted. That was his lifeline now. Marcy didn't flinch. She simply lifted the remote from the table, clicked once, turned the room into a coffin. The projector lit up with a slide so plain it could have been mistaken for boilerplate, until you read the title, Payment Gateway Sync, Probability of Catastrophic Failure. Below the title was a line graph with a terrifying curve, low probability in isolation, but with every unchecked edge case stacked on top of each other, the line didn't just rise, it spiked. Sharp, violent, unforgiving. Below the graph, in the bottom right corner, is a digital signature. Marcy Hartley, QA Risk Forecast, August 2022. The timestamp predated the reorg by 6 months. And beneath that, a footer note, recommendation, do not proceed to full deployment until cross-environment sync replication passes under load. Risk classification, red, catastrophic. The board froze. Sutterfield looked like someone had poured ice water down the back of his spine. Hallstrom turned his head slowly, just enough to meet his eyes. You're done. No yelling, no drama. Just the final door closing behind a man who thought he was too loud to fail. Sutterfield didn't argue. There wasn't anything left to say. He just sat there, the same color as printer paper, lips parted like he was still buffering. Marcy let the silence breathe. Then she powered off the slide, reached into her leather portfolio, and pulled out a single sheet. She didn't hand it to anyone, just placed it in the center of the table like a calling card. At the top, consulting rate sheet M. Hartley triple her previous salary. Retainer required. Monthly review, no in-house placement. A pause followed, an eager, expectant one, but she already knew the game. I'm not interested in returning, she said, voice even, but I'll stay available. As a consultant, from a distance, they nodded. Of course they did. She stood, gathered her folder, looked at no one in particular, especially not Sutterfield. And with that, she walked out. Down the carpeted hallway, through the gold-trimmed lobby, past the receptionist who now wouldn't meet her eyes. Outside, the air hit sharp and clean. She didn't light a victory cigarette or whisper a dramatic one-liner into the wind. She just walked, quiet, steady, clear-eyed, knowing every step forward meant one less person who'd ever mistake silence for surrender again. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.